Oh, cool.
that we're
Do it.
here.
What is up, Astros fans? It's opening day 2026. I hope everybody's excited. I was just telling Mike, it's a kind of exciting Texas sports day. You got
Yeah.
Astros at 3, Longhorn Sweet 16 at 6, Cougar Sweet 16 at 9. So quite a sports day. Mike, how are you doing? Are you ready for opening day?
Well, it is opening day, kinda.
Yeah,
We had the first game
we
last
did.
night,
Right.
and we can talk about that in just a second. And
Your
then
former team was playing last night.
that's right. And then you have 22 teams that are
Right.
playing today, and there are 3 games, so 6 teams that are still
Right.
waiting till tomorrow.
Is
Now,
it appropriate that the Rockies are one of the teams that has to wait until tomorrow?
right,
And they're
right,
playing Miami. I mean,
yeah.
my goodness.
Yeah, and the reason they're doing this is because the way it always has been is you have opening day on Thursday. Friday needs to be an off day,
Yeah.
especially for teams that have open air stadiums in case there's weather. So
Mm,
you still have opening day the next day.
makes sense.
Um, so the 3 games that are being played tomorrow are going to be they're all dome stadiums or covered stadiums, which okay, that's fine.
Oh.
But come on, why are we reinventing the wheel on day one? Now, I do think we need to discuss, at least for a moment, the Netflix game last night.
Oh. So I flipped over for just a minute to just kind of see the broadcast value. I wasn't really interested in the outcome of the game, though the Yankees did even with Aaron Judge's 4Ks,
Yeah, the Golden
they were
Sombrero.
they were very good, and Logan Webb not very good
Yeah,
for
he had a bad inning. He had a
yeah,
bad
San
inning.
Francisco.
Yeah.
But yeah, first of all, somebody pointed this out on the Athletic this morning. Could they make the stats and numbers any smaller on the screen?
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I wear reading glasses. I don't need distance glasses, but my goodness, they were tiny.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, you would say, well, it's their first time, putting together a
Yeah,
broadcast like this. But why are we reinventing the wheel?
it's not the
I mean,
first
listen,
time.
all you go and look what ESPN or any of the other
Fox,
RSNs have
Apple,
done over the years, and you can see in a very, very short period of time, because that's always something that everyone's going to complain about, and we just
right?
have time to do it. Okay, change the colors, something like that, but you don't need to change the font size. Um, the broadcast was okay. I thought it was kind of cool that they did have, Barry Bonds
That
and
was
Albert
cool.
Pujols.
And Bonds told the story about
Excuse me.
how he didn't go to the Yankees, which I thought was kind of a fun
Yeah, he
story
hung
at
up
the
on
end.
Steinbrenner. I
Yeah,
thought that
that
was
was
pretty funny.
pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, and that was when Barry was really brash back in the
Yeah,
early '90s.
exactly.
But there was some other stuff. Start off with, listen, this isn't one of the award shows. Okay,
Yeah,
baseball games are supposed to start at the time they're supposed to start,
right.
not 20 minutes late. Playoff
Right.
games, okay, you can understand that. First game of the
Sure.
season, yeah, not so much. Also, just the people. This is what I took, and it's funny whenever you read articles or you hear people talk about it. They'll kind of sort of say what they'll think, but then they'll kind of butter it up a little bit. They'll
Right.
soften it up. Um, there was just way too much glam and glitter. People want to watch a baseball game. Show them a
Right.
baseball game. Give them a little bit of entertainment on the side. The game didn't help, 7-0.
Right.
But it was, it almost seemed like Netflix tried too hard.
Well, the one of the points they made too, which was really interesting, is the fact that the stadium has some, um, let's call it light issues, just simply because of the way the light hits it.
Right.
Um, and so the boards in the back, the green screen boards were intense. There were a couple of them that was like right behind the batter. I'm like, holy crap, that thing is red. Like it's very
Yeah.
distracting.
And
And
those things, okay, you can understand those. Those are
you can
things
make
that,
mistakes, but you can figure it out.
but and
You're
it's live.
Silicon Valley.
It's a live event.
Right.
You can say, okay, I'm looking here on a computer screen, everything looks great,
True.
but what is the actual product going
Right.
out? It does change. I mean, I was in broadcasting for a long time. It's
Yeah.
not like exactly what you see is what's going out. Sometimes there's a difference. So,
It's
okay, hiccup on that one. That's fine.
yeah.
But you know, this wasn't a Hollywood show.
They
This
did
was a
have at
baseball
least
game.
I will say at least they did have a pretty solid broadcast team in place,
They
and
did.
so the game was
They
called
did.
well. from what I could tell.
I
Watch
heard
some of the
Vasgersian
highlights.
did a nice job.
Yeah, yeah, and so good for them. But yeah, listen, we are all going to we are all going to have to adjust to some variables, just like we've had to
Yeah.
adjust to Apple TV, which the Astros will
Oh
be
my
on
goodness, was
Friday.
that bad at the beginning?
Yeah,
Oh
and the
my
Astros will
goodness.
be on there as part of the opening year doubleheader tomorrow night,
Mhm.
in fact. And so, yeah, there are some things that we're all just going to have to get used to. I will say this: Netflix probably could have spent a little bit of time paying attention to how the NFL handled being on Prime, because honestly, the Prime broadcasts of the NFL were good.
Yeah.
They were well done. There was good quality.
But you
And
can't.
so,
Here's what I found out with this industry. Nobody wants to do what somebody else is doing.
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
so
they've
bad.
always trying to, like I said,
It's not
reinvent
the
the wheel,
movies,
do it
man.
something. It's
It's
not.
it's for
It's
it's
not.
like it was the first game on Netflix, but as someone else read saw, it wasn't the first game ever broadcast.
True.
You can sort
True.
of figure out. You can sort of
Even
don't
this
have to
year, I mean, they did a great job. The
exactly.
WBC did a great job. Uh,
Exactly. No,
but
great
you know,
example.
in here's where I think Major League Baseball gets a lot of things right. I mean,
Yeah,
a lot of things. Usually when there's some kind of special event or something, they hit home runs. They do it
they
right.
do.
Stop trying to cater to the fly by the seat fan.
Right.
Cater to the people that you should be catering to, which is your everyday fan. Those are the people we should be really catering to. And yeah, we can do a little thing here, a little thing there, trying to
Right.
bring in more people. But we're this idea that you know you're and this is I mean our culture is this way, by the way.
Mhm.
You're always you're paying attention to the wrong people. You need
Right.
to pay attention to the people that are paying the bills, and those are your regular, everyday,
Right.
fanatical fans.
And also of note, the very first ABS call last night, shortstop call it, and he was wrong when a call went to the umpire. Although, if you look at it, the very next pitch was a ball that was called a strike,
Right?
and so which so you're
So
screwed again. Going to
there's
be
going to
some
be there.
interesting moments.
It is, and since we made this big, huge deal that ABS is there, and it is. I mean, it is a
Hmm.
huge deal.
Yeah.
But in no way, shape, or form is there not going to be controversy.
Oh, there's gonna be. It's
Because
just
there's
like the pitch
strategy beside
clock
it.
or
Yeah, that's right.
anything
Absolutely.
else. Any new rule change is gonna
Yeah.
create
At
some
least the
controversy
pitch
for
clock is
sure.
cut and dry. There's the clock. If it goes to zero, you're late.
Right,
But this is a little
exactly.
different because since you only have two,
Yeah, you
and
gotta be strategic.
who's going to get to to call it? Who's going to get tap their helmet? Pitchers aren't really going to get a chance because we think everything's a freaking strike.
Right, I was gonna
Uh,
say you guys do absolutely do
I
not
never
need
threw a ball. I
the
never
last
threw a
thing you
ball.
need is access to the button if you
Right.
if you're a pitcher.
That's right.
But I will say it was interesting though, the first one was from a batter. I That surprised me. I thought the
Batters
first
and
call would
catchers, I think, are the
yeah,
two that are going to be able to do it. The pitchers, I think, pretty much all the managers across the league have said, "Yeah, we're not going to trust the pitchers."
yeah,
But
no.
the funny thing is, the person that has the best view is the catcher.
Right.
But even in spring training, the times that was challenged, it wasn't like they were 85, ninety
Oh,
percent.
no.
It was
No. It was
pretty
about
incredible that
50-50.
yeah,
And
yeah.
point one interesting point I saw somebody write this morning is, will people start trying to game the ABS system? And here's
Of
an
course they will.
example. Here's a good example. Instead of trying to frame a pitch as a strike, what if they try to frame a pitch as a ball to fake out the batter to force them to try to get them to use an ABS call?
Hey,
Like
if you can think that quickly, God
exactly.
bless you. But
Exactly.
it's just one of those things. I mean, they were talking about in the broadcast. There was a call late in the game that would have been a ball four.
Yes.
The game was already out of hand, and the
Right.
and the hitter, I think it was the Giants hitter, was clearly not happy with the call, but he didn't tap his head.
No, he's like, "Meh."
But it's one of those things. It's gonna be fun to watch to see how this progresses, see how this evolves, and see exactly what it evolves into in
Yeah.
say 2 or 3 or 4 years from now.
No kidding. It's going to be super fascinating. So on to the Astros. Let's talk just a minute
Yeah, by the
about.
way, folks, that was all ad lib. We didn't talk about any of that at
No,
all.
we just that was just all like,
We're
hey,
10 minutes in. We're just now starting our show.
we're just like da, 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 da. It's like, hey, that's what opening day does to you, man. There's a buzz in the air, and it makes you want to chat about baseball for sure. I
Right.
will. There were a few interesting choices in the Astros 26-man roster. There always are. Some of these are injury related, especially with all Hader, Daniel De Los Santos, and Bennett Sousa all ending
Right.
up on the IL to start the season. So it makes sense that you'll see some pitchers in there that maybe you didn't see, like we see AJ Bluebaugh made the
Hmm.
26 man. Also, Kai Wei Tang made it, which I don't think is necessarily a surprise, along with Ryan Weiss. The one that's a little out of left field was where was the one I was looking for? Well, didn't Roa make it? Maybe I got the wrong 26 man. I'm looking at I see. This is what happens when you trust the wrong person.
That's right.
I'm not gonna say this. But yeah, they had a couple interesting choices, but most of them had to be because of essentially what happened with the injury. Yeah, Christian
Right.
Roa, that's who made it,
Yeah.
and so a local kid, and then on the offensive on the lineup side, the offensive side, you have Christian Vasquez beating out Cesar Salazar, which I think we all expected. And I think the other interesting one was Nozak Cole. He obviously didn't perform well in
Hmm.
the in spring training,
Right.
and so Bryce Matthews getting the start, even though Jeremy Pena is actually healthy. And that I think speaks as much to Zach Cole not playing well as it does to the fact that Bryce Matthews can play multiple positions now.
Well, and that's the reason he's there. He
Yeah.
is one of those. They're hoping for him to be, one of those super utility players. Oh yeah, that can also hit.
They can
And
also definitely hit.
that's really what they're looking for, because those guys are a little bit of an aberration.
Yeah.
Plenty of guys can play multiple positions, and those guys have value. But when you can put someone with the talent of Matthews in the lineup, and regardless of what glove he happens to be wearing
Right.
defensively, he can still hold his own and put together a good at bat, and maybe even drive in a few runs. Those guys are really valuable. And the Astros have
Yeah.
always been very good at having, finding one of those guys. It is a little bit of surprising that Jeremy, even though he's there, but I did think what it is the Astros realize that this is game one of
Right.
162. We put a lot on it, and they do too, about being
Mhm.
opening day and how important it is and how much fun it is, and spring is sprung and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Um, but you're also looking at not just today, you're looking at the long haul. I mean, you're
Yes.
looking at the whole season. And so, Jeremy didn't have the spring training, even if he wouldn't have broken his finger, it
Mhm.
was going to be a little bit different, because he was going to be with the WBC.
Right.
Uh, excuse me. But they're trying to ease him in. He's going
Yeah.
to be the everyday shortstop. I I mean, I know how controversial that is.
Mhm.
It's just going to take him maybe a little bit of time to get there every day.
Well, his last exhibition game, 4 for 4 with a home run. So I think he basically was letting the Astros
So
know that
maybe
he was
maybe his hamstrings are a little sore from running the bases so much. He just
exactly.
need another day off.
One also little underrated thing about Bryce Matthews is the guy is super fast. So bringing him in as a pinch runner
Right.
is certainly something we've seen the Astros do this in the past. Keep a guy who can do a lot of different things
Sure.
athletically, and so I think that's probably the case. Looking at this season, there are a couple things I kind of want to touch on in terms of where I think we're gonna, where we really need to look at with a little more finer detail as the season goes on. And the first one is injuries. Listen, injuries in all sports are the great equalizer. The Astros
Always.
had more games lost to injury last year than any team except for the Los Angeles Dodgers, who won the World Series anyway because they
Hmm.
have a $400 million payroll. Um, but the big thing I've seen with the Astros is it's key injuries, right? Last year,
Sure.
one of their big problems was like they lost pitchers, but they had enough depth to hold on. But they lost Jordan Alvarez, and when you lose a guy like Jordan Alvarez out of your lineup, that is a player that is going to cause disruption both for the opponents and disruption for your own lineup because you're not going to have that bat in there. So who gets injured is almost as important as how many people get injured.
Well, I think when you look at the lineup coming out of spring training last year, 2025, um, even if everyone was healthy, you would have said, okay, yeah, this is a very top heavy lineup.
Yes.
All the guys in the first half of the lineup, they're going to have to do all the heavy lifting.
Right.
Now, the crazy thing was last year, it was the bottom half of the
For
lineup
the
at
first
the
half of the
beginning,
season.
yeah,
Yeah.
that actually did that kept the team afloat.
Yep.
Um, Health is paramount for everyone, but like you said, this team has had more than their fair share of injuries to not just players, to key players.
Mhm.
And I don't think it's any different this year. I still don't think this is a great offensive team.
No.
I think it's that you can pretty much whatever we said 2025, you can say in 2026. It's going to be a top heavy. The boys at the top are going to have to do all the heavy lifting. If they get anything from the bottom half of the lineup, that's just icing on the cake. But if they start losing guys out of the top of the lineup,
That's it.
man, it's going to be it's going to be lean again. And then also the pitching staff. Um, you know, with the way spring training started, before the position players ever
Mhm.
got there, if you
Yeah.
remember the little presser that Lance McCullers Jr. had and the tone he had at
Yeah, we
that
talked
time,
about it.
we were like, "Is there some, is his arm hurting again? Is there an issue here?" Because he was talking about you know things that active players don't talk about,
Right. He was it
I'm a
sounded almost
father, I'm
like,
a husband and
"Well."
a father, and I've got other things,
Exactly.
and
He
you
sounded
know,
like any minute he was gonna be just riding off into the
right,
sunset.
they were just about to cut off his right arm. That it's
Exactly.
done. Just get rid of it. I'm done.
Exactly.
But he ends up having a good spring training, and he ends up, making not just the roster, making the rotation. So
Right.
I thought that was a pleasant surprise because we know if Lance McCullers Jr. is healthy, this dude can spin the ball with the best of them,
Yep.
and we know he's gotten huge outs for the Astros in the past.
Yeah, it's I again, injuries just who's hurt, I think is gonna be as important as how many they lose.
Sure.
Also, you just talked about it, pitching depth. The Astros, look, last year their pitching depth saved them from what could have been an absolute disaster of a season. The
Mhm.
fact that they had guys that they could bring in right now, when you look at it, just from starting arms, you could argue that there are 12 guys in the Astros, both in the major leagues and in the minors, who have the potential to be one of your 5 starters.
Sure.
Not saying top 2 or 3, there's not a bunch of guys that can do that, but, I mean, Spencer Arrighetti, AJ Bluebaugh, um, Ryan Weiss, Jason Alexander, who's in the minors from last year. There are a lot of guys on this in this the team's roster as a whole, on the 40 man, who can pitch in the starting rotation, which
Mhm.
also means you're going to have guys that can pitch out of the bullpen. It gives
Sure.
them a lot of depth, and having that pitching depth, they obviously clearly understood how much they've needed from the last 2 years of all the injuries they've gone through. But I think that's a huge plus for them and something that
Yeah.
they were smart to build on.
I think another surprise for me was that Spencer Arrighetti is starting in AAA.
Yep,
And
me
it's
too.
not necessarily a demotion. What it is
No.
more than anything else is because of the schedule. We see this every year, and we talked about it off the top about how teams have to have off days the
Yep.
day after opening day, just in case there's weather. That's, the stadiums that are open air.
Mhm.
Um, uh, so that's the reason he was there is in AAA is because so he's not going to pitch in the pen, so he can get a start or two in
Right.
AAA, and he can stay healthy and stay extended. But still a little surprising that he's not with the Houston Astros. He's with the Sugarland Space Cowboys. Even though there's
Yeah.
a very valid reason, and we'll see him in a couple of weeks anyways when the Astros do. I think at one point here later in the month they're going to play 13 straight games.
That's right.
Yeah, you're going to need the sixth guy for the six-man rotation, and that would be Spencer Arrighetti.
Well, I'll tell you something too. If you like good pitching, get some tickets to the Space Cowboys
Oh
because
man,
that is going to be a
yeah,
serious rotation in
right,
AAA. The third thing for me this year is going to be to see the emergence of young players. We saw Cam Smith last year, kind of fell off a cliff at the plate
maybe a
as
little
he got to
early,
the end.
maybe
Yeah,
a little early,
maybe a little early, but he's now got a full season under his belt. Joey Loperfido left, improved his he hit 300 after he went to Toronto.
right?
Um, and he's now got a couple of season and a half really under his belt as a
Mhm.
pro. And now you've got Bryce Matthews coming in as a youngster. Um, I think watching and seeing where the young guys sort of go is going to be a really interesting part of this season because first of all, it matters to the Astros going forward, right?
Mhm.
The bet look, Dana Brown, I think it was just yesterday, said he's already interested in extending both Hunter Brown and Jeremy Pena as sort of core pieces to their
Yeah, good
yeah,
luck there.
yeah, good
Good luck.
luck with that. But I mean, the truth is the Astros are the development of their young players has been pretty solid considering how bad their farm system is rated. But I think watching what those guys are going to do in the majors this year, and some of the other guys they bring up, like Zach Cole, Zach DeZenzo, a few others, I think that's going to be real key to their success or failure this season, just simply because those guys are going to have to play.
I don't think I'm controversial saying that, is this organization the same as it was 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago? Of course
Yeah,
not. It's not. It is definitely on the downhill side. And what are they trying to do? You try to continue to maintain the open window, and
right.
these guys are the future.
Hmm.
And they to see how they progress. Now, one thing that we've seen from this organization over the last decade is they have been very good at bringing guys up and being, not just big league ready, but I mean, contributing from the very beginning.
100%.
And I think that's a tribute to the organization as a whole, not just a couple of guys maybe in the front
Hmm.
office or in their player development.
Right.
Everybody has been on board, so I think that is a big part of this. The one thing that you always question when you have a team that's been as good as the Astros have been for as long as the Astros have been is just the overall talent level in the minor leagues, and that's where they may be falling short. Now it still seems like they have a way to find somebody
They
that can come
manufacture.
in and do it. I mean, just a couple years ago, I mean, Spencer Arrighetti came up, and yeah, his first few starts wasn't very good, but then all of a sudden he figured it out. He was very, very good for the rest of the season, the second half of the
Yeah.
season. And you know those are the kind of things that a team like the Astros has to have. They have to have some diamonds in the rough that work out to continue to play well and continue to be a contender in their division. I don't
Hmm.
think, listen, the Seattle Mariners are one of the best teams in Major League Baseball.
Hmm.
Tell you the truth, they have been probably the last 4 or 5 years, but they have
Hmm.
drastically underachieved prior to
Yes.
2025. Last year, I didn't think they were over their skis. I thought they finally figured it out. They finally got to play, baseball, what their talent levels
Hmm.
says they should be playing. So they are the team to beat in the AL West, but that doesn't mean they can't be beat. That doesn't
No.
mean, and you still, and all the success the Astros have had against that team and against the other teams in the West, that all goes into your confidence.
Right.
Okay. And, you play 162 two games. You don't play inside your division, but 12 times each team. It's not like it used to be. We used to play 19 times.
That's a
So the
lot.
division was absolutely decided inside your division. That's not the case anymore. So the
Yeah.
Astros, the Astros have as good a shot as anyone. I think they are underdogs, and we haven't seen that very often.
No.
But there are teams that kind of revel in the idea of being underdogs.
Absolutely, and I think the Astros, they seem to have been one of those franchises that kind of prefers that. Houston, generally, you'd see that a lot of times with Houston teams
Mhm.
overall. It's like, "Go ahead, forget about us, that's fine. We'd
Right.
rather play from behind." Alright, I'm
Milwaukee
gonna
Brewers are a perfect example.
another g
Keep
yeah.
y'all just keep talking about the Cubs. We'll just stay up here and we'll just win the division every year.
Exactly. That is 100% right. So, okay, I'm gonna give you some over-unders, and I wanna get
Okay.
your thoughts on these. I've got a handful of them here. First one, 39.5 home runs, Yordan Alvarez.
Oh.
And I think that's an intriguing number because no Astro since Jeff Bagwell has hit 40.
Mhm.
And so I don't know. What do you think?
The Astros fan in me says over.
Mhm.
The reality of it may be under.
Mhm.
And I know I just said a whole bunch of words to keep me right in the middle of the fence. But again, it's health. There's so many things
Yes.
that are going to go into this. And I don't know if there was an article in the Athletic by friend of mine, Tyler Kepner.
Sure.
Read it. It was fascinating. It was what happened to the 300 hitter was
Oh,
the
yeah.
article,
Yeah, I think I did
and
read that.
and there was a whole bunch of information that went into that, and he did a great job of laying it all out. Um, the bottom line is, it just ain't that easy to hit in Major League Baseball.
No, it's not.
In the article, there was a quote from Terry Francona, the Cincinnati Reds manager. He
Mhm.
said, "It used to be get to the bullpen, get to the bullpen, get the
Right.
starter out, get to
No,
the
for
bullpen. Then
sure.
we have a chance to win." Well,
Not
guess
anymore.
what? No, no, you got to. And actually, what Terry said was, um, "Be careful what you wish for." Because that's where all the big stuff is coming out of
Right.
now. That's where the high 90s with the snapdragon sliders and the split fingers that are falling off the table.
Yep.
So I guess what you really need to do is get to the starting pitcher in a very short period of time so the bullpen doesn't have time to warm up. So the bottom line is, it's just not that easy. But we know that
Agreed.
Jordan is a special, special player. He is an incredibly good hitter. I'll be optimistic. I'm going to
Yeah.
take the over. I'm going to say he
So,
does it.
all right, I'm gonna take under, but barely. I think he gets to
You're
38,
38.
39. I think he gets 30, 37 is his career high.
Right.
I think he beats that, but I don't think he quite gets to 40. And it's mainly because of this next over under, which is 140.5 games played, Jordan Alvarez. And I think that's under. I just think he's going to not play. I think it's going to be close to that. I think he's going to play certainly more than last year.
Sure.
But with his injury history, I just can't take an over of only missing 20 games.
Here's the
I feel
thing.
like,
If he's going to get to 140 games,
yeah,
that is without injury. That
correct.
that means he was healthy the whole time. And if he gets to 140 games, he'll hit 40 home runs.
I agree with you. I think
I
that is
but
100% correct.
but our and the reason I say 140 games, so why not 150? Why not 162? Well, that's not how the Astros
No,
run the organization. Everybody gets off days all the time.
they have
You
to,
know,
especially a guy like
even though
him.
they have more off days built in now, the season is actually 10 days longer than it used to be, because they have 20 off days compared to, back in my era, we only had 10 off days. So they already had those built in, but they get additional off days also.
Yeah,
You're not going to
exactly.
have an Astro play 162 games. You're just not going to have it.
Right.
Even the quote unquote starters, 150, 145. So
Right.
for Jordan to get to 140, he's going to have to be healthy the whole season. If he does that, he's going to hit home runs.
I agree with you. So here's another one. Speaking of injury possibilities, over under on
Wait, I don't
ERA.
think I answered. I don't
Oh,
think I answered.
oh, did you? Oh, you didn't. Okay. What are you calling
I
for?
said, so I'm going to say under also. I
Okay.
don't think Jordan's going to, I think there's going to be, even if he doesn't have a substantial
Right.
injury, you take 2 weeks off, you go on the IL.
Right.
Guess what? That's putting 140 in jeopardy.
Exactly. Okay. Over or under ERA of 450, Lance McCullers.
Ooh,
See, that's where it gets
that's
tricky
a
because
good number.
it's a tough number to pick. Like, because anything over 450 is not great, but anything under 450 is pretty good for a fifth starter.
Yeah, and oh gosh, his velocity has been good this spring. I mean,
Yeah.
he's been in the mid 90s.
Yes, he has.
He's still Lance McCullers Jr. He still doesn't know where the fastball's going.
Right.
That's why he throws so many breaking balls, because that's not just his strikeout pitch; it's also
Right.
his strike pitch.
Yes.
Wow, because to tell you the truth, 450 isn't that high of an ERA.
Nope, not for a fifth starter.
You go. What is it? You go. You give 3 runs in 5 innings.
Yep.
That's above a 450.
That's right.
Um,
That's right. That's why it's a tough number, man.
I'm gonna take. My heart wants to say under. My gut says over. I'm gonna have to take over.
I'm going to take the over as well. I think it's probably going to be pretty close because I think first of all, I don't think he's going to pitch a boatload of innings. I think as the fifth starter and a guy that might, they might sit down for a little bit here and there. I don't think he's going to get enough necessarily innings to sort of he's not going to play boatloads of innings. And so I think he could have a hiccup here or there, and that could cost him in that area, because I just don't think he's going to pitch enough games where he's going to be able to even that out over
Yeah.
time. I still think he'll be pretty. I think he'll be better than we think he'll
Well,
be, but
there's
maybe
going to
not.
be times he's going to look like old Lance McCullers.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
the sliders breaking, he's got command of it. And listen, well, we all know that that's how major league pitchers pitch now. Yeah, everybody throws 100, but nobody throws 100 because everybody's throwing breaking balls.
Yeah, and I just think that what's gonna happen is you're gonna see that, and you're also gonna see some, Lance McCullers who are like, "Oh, no. Not oh, no,
Yeah.
not again."
Well,
You
when you
know,
throw
it's like
that many sliders, curveballs, cutters, sweepers, it's all the same pitch. It's a
exactly,
variation of the same pitch. You throw
exactly.
that many every once in a while, you're going to hang it.
Alright, here's my next one. Over under batting average of 270 for Jose Altuve. Now, as a little bit of
Mm,
context, he was 265 last year, which is the lowest he had been since 2020, since the lockout year when he was at 219, which was a terrible year for him. But otherwise, he has never been under 270. Only
yeah.
2 seasons in his career has he been there. Last year, though, 265. So I'm wondering, does he bounce back? Does he come back and get back up into the 290 range where he's been pretty much throughout his entire
Mhm.
career, or does he continue to slide?
I The deciding factor on this very well may be how is the team performing.
It's a
And
really good point.
the reason I say that is if this offense is not up to snuff, if they are, if it's still all about the Astros pitching, whether they win or not, I think it's probably going to be below because we know Jose Altuve can press. Okay, and so we know it is a very, very fine line between a good Altuve and a bad Altuve, and it's all about pitch selection. It's all about his aggressiveness at the plate.
Right,
Um, and the thing is, as he's gotten older, the aggressiveness hasn't gone away. That is who he is. That's like in his DNA.
right.
If the team is performing and they're having fun, I think, yeah, he can be well over 270. Um, I'm going to take the over. I'm going to say that because if Jordan's going to be healthy,
Mhm.
okay, they're going to score some runs, and we know that Altuve can be the hottest player on the planet.
Yeah.
He's the type of guy that can hit 750 for 2.5 or
Oh,
3
yeah.
weeks.
He went September last year, I think, or it was August. I think he was 1,100 OPS or something like
Yeah.
that for 1 month, which is the reason that he came up to
Because
265,
you remember at the beginning of his career when he was, he topped out at 225 hits one season.
That's right.
He had a philosophical change in his approach, and he started trying to drive the ball out of the ballpark,
Right,
and he turned himself into an MVP, but he also wasn't hitting 330 anymore.
right.
You know,
Exactly.
so if some guys can perform around him, and Jose does not have to press and start over swinging, being over aggressive, I think he still absolutely has, a 290 batting average in him.
I'm with you. I think it'll be over. I don't know how much over, but I do think he'll best out what he did last year. I think partially because he's Jose Altuve. And how am
Yeah.
I gonna bet against that guy? Couple more. Um, Over or under 130 innings pitched, Tatsuya Mai. And, I find this one to be a real interesting one because, it's his first time playing, Major League Baseball in
Mhm.
America. I think personally, I think he's gonna be really good. I think he's gonna be kind of shockingly good, especially early in the season when fewer guys have been able to see his pitches.
Yeah.
Um, but the question is how deep does he go in ball games?
I think that what would you say his number one issue coming over here has been in his career? Not just the last year he pitched in Japan, but in his career. It's
It's a
been
good
command.
question.
It's been command. It's been
Right.
throwing strikes. Last year, his last season in Japan, he actually did a nice job of putting the ball in the strike zone.
Yeah.
He had taken a step forward. Well, he hasn't just had a professional change; he's had a cultural change.
Yeah.
And we've seen guys come over from Japan, come from anywhere, but
Mhm.
especially the Far East, where it hasn't necessarily gone great that first year. Now we've also seen guys that have come over and have been just absolutely filthy
Right.
from day one. The stuff is there. There's no doubt about that. But if he can put the ball in the strike zone, there are a lot of outs because major league hitters do not like to face guys that they don't have track records against.
Yep.
So he can put the ball in the zone. He has the advantage. I'm
Right.
going to say I'm going to take above. I think
Yeah.
he's going to be. I think he's going to be just fine.
I do too.
I'm looking at maybe 250 to 200, not 200,
Yeah.
150
Yeah.
to 160 innings.
That's a great number.
I think that would be. I think that would be an absolute success.
Oh, it would be a huge success
He's
for the
just going to
Astros.
have to. He's going to have to be able to put the ball in the zone because one thing that we know about U.S. hitters, major league hitters compared to
Mhm.
Japanese hitters, don't expand the zone nearly as much. You have to
Mm,
get ahead in the count. If he gets ahead in the
right.
count, he's got the stuff to do it.
I agree with you. I'm the same. I think I'm picking him somewhere between about around 150 innings. I think he's going to surprise some people. I really do. I think this, and I think he has the EQ. Never mind the IQ. He seems to be a guy who really loves it. He's taken to coming to America pretty quickly,
Yeah,
and I think he's going to love it in
I
Houston.
think this is a great place for him. It's
Yes,
not a heavy media market.
right.
You have to deal with Brian McTaggart every day. Come on, how is that ever a bad thing? I mean, Brian never has a bad thing to
Take
say.
Brian McTaggart's name out your mouth.
So
Tag.
no, I think it's a good situation for him, and
Yeah,
if he can get on a roll,
great.
and the personality we've already seen, we
Yeah,
haven't
he's
seen
funny.
him as he hasn't seemed overwhelmed,
No, he's
you
kind
know,
of a
and
prankster.
that's a good thing.
Yeah,
That's a
he's kinda
good
got a
thing.
dry sense of humor. I think
Got to
he'll
have
be
some fun.
fine. All right, couple more. Over under Hunter Brown, 12.5 wins. He had 12 last year, which honestly was really more of a case of just, not
That's
getting
a
as
team
much
thing.
run support
Yeah,
and not getting the bullpen support that he probably deserved. But obviously, Hunter Brown is a guy that can win way more than that.
yeah.
And so, do we think he's going to do that this year with this Astros team?
I think he's got a chance. I'm going to
Mhm.
take the over. I'll be optimistic.
Me too.
Hope springs eternal.
Yeah,
I
me
think
too.
that he's got 15, 16 wins in him. Now he's going to need some to run support,
Yep.
but I think what we've seen him, especially last year, he was great for a big portion of the season. Then he kind of had a hiccup. The
Yeah.
key to it was he got out of it and
Yes.
he pitched well. And the old saying, you know that doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I
Right.
think he really improved his pitchability. Um, everybody made a big deal about his two seam fastball. Yeah, I got inside on right handers, but it's not like it's Fromm or sinker.
Right.
So it did give him another weapon. But I think that just with him getting a little bit older, with the experience he's had, he should be able to still have the highest of highs. But I think the floor should come up.
That's a really good point. I think that's something that people underestimate about players is not necessarily how great they can be, but how well they can avoid being bad.
Right.
And the really great players are able to avoid being bad for long stretches of time. That's just how it is. All right, the most important over under, and this is Vegas's line,
Oh,
wins 85.5, which I think is like a really interesting number,
that is a good
considering
number.
considering they're in the division with the Mariners, considering some of the struggles they've had. 85.5 wins. And so I'll let you go first on this one. What do you think?
Oh man, that's a tough number because you are right. The playoff number is 80, but usually 87, 88 wins, somewhere right in there.
Yeah,
And so they would be right in the hunt all the way to the end. Um,
they were last year and they didn't finish that high though,
right.
in
Well,
fairness.
I mean, they had the bad 2 weeks.
Right, exactly, real
You talk
bad.
about getting on a roll. Well, you get on a roll either good or bad, and
Exactly.
they kind of got in the bad roll right there
Yeah, they did.
right there at the end. Oh man,
It's a
I don't
tough
know.
one.
I don't know. I mean, that is a strong number, and I don't think that their final win total is going to be far away from that number either way.
I agree with you. It's just same
I'm
thing. Not a super
unfortunately
high ceiling, not a super low floor.
unfortunately my gut is telling me under.
Yeah. I told a friend of mine when he asked me about this, I said, "Listen, I don't expect them to lose more than I don't expect them to their win total should be somewhere between 78, 79 wins and like 86, 87. It's going to
Mhm.
be in that range. It's going to
Yeah.
be a pretty narrow range for them. I'm with you. I'm taking the under. I think they're probably going to win like 84, 85. I think
Yeah.
that's probably where they're going to be. And I think a lot of it is going to, we talked about injuries, obviously. Um, I think they're going to, I agree with you about the Mariners. I still think they can win this division. I'm optimistic about it, but
Mhm.
they're going to have to keep pace. This is not something where they can fall behind, by
What they
10
did
games
2
or
years
whatever.
ago is
Yeah.
not gonna happen.
They're not
The
going to be able to
Seattle
do that.
Mariners are too good now.
They are.
They're playing with confidence that they've never had
Right.
before. They had a all-time best season last year, and there's arguably the team may be better this year
Yeah.
than they were last year. So,
Correct.
you're not going to be able to do what they did 2 years ago. Be down, 12 games under 500, and inside 3 weeks, you're battling
Right.
for the lead.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. You can't dig that hole. That was an aberration. If you're going to get off to a rocky start, you got to hang out around 500. You got to
Yep.
tread water until things start turning around. And I think getting Josh Hader back is going to be a big part of
Right.
this. I'm kind of surprised he hasn't progressed the way he has. I know the Astros are extremely conservative in these situations,
Very. Especially
but
beginning of the year.
getting him back, getting him healthy is going to do nothing but help this club.
I agree with you. I think it's going to be a really interesting season because I do think more than anything this year, I'm not sure Seattle's going to be as good as they were last year. It's hard to replicate those kinds of seasons. We saw that with the Rangers with their roller
But
coaster
they're,
sort of thing, but
in
they
their
had real
rotation,
talent.
Brian Wu is healthy.
Mhm.
If nothing else, that's another huge arm.
Yeah, they have real talent.
Yeah,
Make
they
no
do.
mistake. They have real talent. Don't like my personal thing is I'm not sure they're going to get that many home runs out of Cal Raleigh again. And so
Probably not. Probably
their
not.
biggest issue has been their offense.
Yeah.
They're going to pitch their way into a lot of wins for
Well,
sure.
and Cal sure didn't make you feel better in the WBC.
No, he did not. That is exactly
Yeah.
right. And so you're going to have to rely on some speculative hitting there, but
Right.
they're going to be able to pitch themselves out of almost any situation. All right, well, it's opening day, everybody. It's always hope springs eternal, as we say. It's going to be a fun season. I mean, listen, even if the Astros do not have a great season this year, which I'm not thinking they're going to have a great like World Series run or anything, this is going to be a fun team to watch. And it's going to be if you're a baseball nerd and you like watching sports, my buddy Dave, who does Clutch Fans, the Rockets fan site, has been doing it for many, many years. He's one of those guys that sometimes has as much fun in a losing season as he does in a winning one because he likes to think about what's
Well, it
going to
gives
happen.
guys like us. It gives guys like us talking
Right.
points.
Lots of meat on the bone, lots of
That's
like
right.
what ifs, what's going to happen. The Astros are going to have a big draft this year, in the middle of the season. They've got a lot of picks this year,
Mhm.
including some pretty high ones. So the whole season is going to be fascinating, I think. And we'll get to some of those storylines as we move along. I'm going to be real curious to see, for example, will Jake Myers and Isaac Paredes both be on this roster after the trading deadline?
Right.
We'll see. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Obviously, Mike, you're going to be doing Back to the Bullpen tonight, I would assume, right?
Yes. It'll air tomorrow at noon.
Nice.
Yeah, just like every day, you can find us. Thank you for bringing it up. You can find us on Locked On MLB. That's where you will like and subscribe. And our podcast, Back to the Bullpen, is inside that channel. So you go to podcasts. You can also find us Spotify, Apple, anywhere you find your podcasts.
Yeah, same
Just
here.
like this one.
Exactly, just like this one. We, it's I think it's going to be a real fun season for if you're a baseball. Sorry, I gotta just tell this. Somebody posted in the public chat. They said an 84 win prediction is pretty dismal for opening day. Why don't you lie and say 90?
Because I'm torn between my heart and my head.
Well, also because this is being recorded. Like, I don't want to go back at the end of the season and everybody's like,
going 96 games.
You said 90 wins.
Right.
What do you mean?
Thought you were supposed to be an expert.
Listen, Astros Twitter. Just go ask Astros Twitter how many games they're going to win. They'll probably be like 60. That's exactly what's going to happen.
So the last thing I'll say is this is how baseball is supposed to be. Make sure you have your Rolaids. Make sure you have your Tums because there's going to be some times the antacid is flaring up or the acid is flaring up. You got to put something in there to calm it down. But it's going to be a fun season.
Exactly. Just save some milk. Save some milk around to tamp down that acid.
Whole milk, because apparently now the lesser fat milk is not good for you.
Every was it there was a great song by Joe Jackson in the 1990s called "Everything Gives You Cancer."
Yes.
It's like, all right, thanks everybody. I really appreciate you joining us as always. We will see you next week. And hey, opening day, go Astros.